Heads Peru, tails Denmark. Denmark. It's tails. Well, first the positives for Denmark. They grabbed a crucial 3 points today because the conventional wisdom was that the winner of this game would come in second on paper behind France in this group. No, we've seen France earlier in the day. They were vulnerable, but I'll save it for that match reaction, France versus Australia. But for Denmark's case, they capitalized in crucial moments when they absolutely had to, especially on the counter. Uri Poulsen really registering one of the very few strikes on goal that Denmark had the entire game, assisted by Christian Eriksen, who I thought, for the most part, Eriksen, he had a really quiet game, and this was a criticism that I give Christian Eriksen. He's either here or there for Denmark. You know, you don't know which Christian Eriksen you're going to get. You're going to get the Eriksen that scored a hat-trick against the Republic of Ireland, heavy contributor to the defeat of Poland 4-0 in qualifying, or you're going to get Christian Eriksen from the first leg in Copenhagen against the Republic 5 days before he went on to score the hat-trick. And another criticism I give Eriksen is that I think he is much more of a club player than he is a national team player. How he is for Tottenham on a consistent basis compared to how he is for Denmark on a consistent basis, the difference is night and day. But for Denmark, they held on in a game that should have been much closer, and they took a vital step forward into making a case for advancing out of this group. And just because they were not very good today doesn't mean that they're going to carry this form over into playing France and Australia. They can't afford to, which leads me to the negatives. The negatives were that, did Denmark deserve to win this game? I would say yes, but just about. In a post-match reaction I gave to one of Denmark's friendlies against Panama back in March, I said that they needed to improve, and I said that their goal-scoring woes would haunt them. It would carry over into the World Cup if they didn't address it. And it did so here. Because this was a dominating performance by Peru. And a lot of people considered this match to be perhaps the most enticing, mouth-watering prospect of the group stage, because it was going to be a battle between two teams who entered this tournament undefeated in each of their last 14 or so games each. But that wasn't the case. I think what happened was Denmark came right out of the gate, not really knowing what hit them, because they were so smothered into their own half for the first 45 minutes of this game. And that was not Danish dynamite today. That was a Danish candle. But the candle did not blow out, and that's the most important thing for them from their perspective in the end. Was it a Pyrrhic victory? It depends, because Denmark need to improve very soon, very drastically, because they close out the group against France. They're going to play against an Australian team will feel they should have gotten a result. An Australian team that will feel they should have gotten a result against France. So they need to up their game. Peru's perspective. And speaking, by the way, of Denmark, even the manager, Aj Heride, said after the game that Denmark, they can't afford to play this way for the rest of their group games. And they especially can't afford to play this way if they want to go far in this tournament. But anyway, to Peru. Peru's case, they were an absolute peach to watch. As far as team performance, overall team performance of all the 16 countries that have played so far, I think I enjoyed watching Peru the most. And as far as who has impressed me the most in this World Cup, I think they've been the second most impressive national team at this tournament so far. We still got a long way to go. The first, I would say, Spain from yesterday, the way they rallied to come back, if not for Cristiano Ronaldo going Superman on everybody. But this is a side that did everything perfectly except score. And this is a game where, you know, your performance is never taken into account. This is a sport that is very cutthroat. It is about the score sheet at the end, who puts the ball in the back of the net more times than the other team. And for Peru, they did everything else right. They were a thrill to watch. I think most neutral fans were behind this Peruvian team. And going forward, they outclassed Denmark, I think, in almost every single area of the pitch, in almost every single position. They just couldn't break through. I mean, the chances that Farfan had, Christian Cueva, who you have to feel sorry for because, you know, imagine how he felt after he skied that penalty. The second missed penalty of the day after Messi missed for Clowns FC. And if I'm not mistaken, Christian Cueva, didn't he miss a penalty in the Copa America Centenario against Colombia in the quarterfinal? I mean, to miss a penalty in your second major competitive tournament, that's really got to take a toll on his confidence and a testament that he can let his nerves get the best of him. But the thing about Christian Cueva, I thought, other than that, he had a pretty decent game. And it was nice to see at halftime his teammates trying to console him, trying to get his mind back into the game, not to despair, still have another half to play. I really liked that. I like the fraternity that this Peruvian team has, and I like the way that Ricardo Gareca has them shaped under his managerial tenure. In the second half, unfortunately, it was continued frustration for Peru. Paulo Guerrero came on. He had a couple of chances through a header from a couple of crosses. He's really known for that. He's really known for scoring headers, it seems. But again, Peru just could not score. And for several of the shots that they did register on target, Kasper Schmeichel for Denmark saved the day. I forgot to mention that as a positive for Denmark, but Kasper Schmeichel very much the man of the match. For Peru, who was I most impressed by? Man, Carrillo. This guy, Carrillo, he can make some sick cuts inside the box. And he was winning almost every challenge that came up against him. The tackles that he made to win back the ball, his recovery on the right-hand side, that was the best individual performance I've seen, I think, today on match day 3 of the World Cup. Advincula as well. Carrillo and Advincula, I think, were Peru's 2 best players today. I really think they do. Because they assisted many of the chances that Peru had up front. And look, if Peru plays this way against France and Australia, I still think they can come out of this group. Yeah, why not? I mean, you know, unless France improves, they were not their best. They haven't been at their best for several months now. They've come up against France. I think they can get a result. I think maybe they can perhaps upset France. So this was a big setback for the Incas, but I don't think it's necessarily a death knell for them. This was a game that they should have won. This was a game that they should have won handedly. And for what it's worth, if it's any consolation, I thought they made Denmark look silly. But this was a case of another Morocco versus Iran, just 2.0 taken to a max higher scale. for Peru's perspective, they absolutely cannot afford to let this damper their hopes for the remaining group games because they should take confidence from this performance. The traveling fans, I think they said, several thousand Peruvians made the trip to Russia. That's incredible. That's how many kilometers, how many miles away is that? Denmark, it was like they were playing in an away game because it was a sea of red and white, and I believe they said only 700 Danes were in attendance for the match. And watching it, hearing the crowd atmosphere, the roaring of the Peruvian fans cheering for the team, Si se puede, it was as if they were playing in the Estadio de Nacional de Lima. So, wherever Peru goes in this World Cup, it's going to feel like a home game for them. I feel, at least. But it was painful to watch. I was watching with a Peruvian friend, and this was a game that Peru really let go. They just couldn't. They couldn't put away their chances, and hopefully, for their sake, it doesn't come back to bite them. So I'm really interested to see how this group shapes up. This group is looking like a sneaky candidate for group of death because Australia ain't nothing to fuck with. France, if they finally get their chemistry together, they're definitely a candidate to win this tournament. So we'll see. And we know Denmark can play better than the way they did today. So I don't think anyone will have a knockout stage place booked until the final match day. So let's see what Peru and Denmark, what they do going forward from this point.